Yeah, so I'm Doug Mcavoy for anyone who hasn't I haven't met before. I'll see a few familiar faces also. I deliver the sound design, advanced sound design, and machine modules at the school, and advanced production techniques and creative production and remix online. So my background is as a DJ and producer, and a long time user of Native Instruments stuff, and it's a big part of my workflow. So yeah, was very excited to get asked to do this and get a little bit of early access to the new Complete 13 suite. I'm just going to open this up in Machine. I generally use Machine with Complete. I just find it a nice way to kind of get, you know, kind of tactile with the instruments and stuff like that, but obviously Complete you can use with you know, straight in your door, whatever else. But I'm just going to be running it through Machine and looking at the different instruments today. So yeah, to start off with, one of the new instruments within Complete 13 is a drum machine called Butch Vig drums. That's the first thing I want to kind of open up now. Butch Vig is like a legendary producer, produced he produced Nevermind for Nirvana. He's like an incredible drummer and producer, and he's basically recorded all of his favorite drum kits and then done lots and lots of processing of the hits. So straight out, you know, out the bat, the sounds are of a very high quality, and it's similar if you've used Battery before, the kind of interface and how you work with it. So let's just open it up now and have a quick look. Yeah, so it's basically, you know, a huge library of very well processed drum sounds, as I said. So one of the features, there are lots of pre-programmed grooves, you know, if that's just something you want to use, you know, and kind of just get something down very quickly. But I think for most people, you know, wanting to actually use it more like a drum machine, but you can just skim through, listen to the different stuff. Sounds interesting. Okay, so this kit here, the Heartbeat kit, let me just open up the interface here so we can have a look. So yeah, nice kind of interface, just gives you immediate access to all of the hits here. So if I just come in and got some nice kind of dynamic sounds here. So what I'll do is I'll just get a very basic pattern in, and then we can kind of, I might just put together a few groups of sounds, and then we'll go back into the individual instruments and we'll explore their, you know, parameters and what we can do with them. So let's just put on a metronome here and just kind of figure something out. Okay. Let's just quantize that quickly. Okay, so got a basic kind of groove to work around. Let me just move this back to the start of the bar here. Okay, cool. So I'll just bring in some hats quickly. Let's just put it on a 2 pattern length and just let it loop around. Okay, so okay, I might quickly extend it a little and put in another little kind of roll at the end or something. Okay, perfect, that'll do. All right, so great sounds straight away, I guess one of the main advantages of this. But let's have a quick look at some of... Hello. Okay, someone's mic there, I think. Yeah, so I'm just going to come and start having a look. You've got at the bottom here, you can see these kind of macros, which you might be used to with kind of Complete 13, you know, Complete interfaces that give you, you know, quick access to just like filters, some just kind of practical drum stuff like saturation. You've got reverb. Okay, so that's handy stuff for performance. It's also handy just for you know, when you're just feeling things out. So let's get into the interface a little here. So inside the kit area here, you see all of your 12 pads with all of your hits. You can kind of interchange hits. So you can just come over to the waveform editor here and access all of the hits, all the different kicks here from the different kits, and switch them in and out, okay, which is a handy function. Basic sampler control stuff, really. So it's like having, each hit in its own sampler. So you've got, pitch control, whatever else. You can quickly solo or mute the individual hit you might be kind of focusing on at the time. Okay, and obviously you've got kind of pitch control, all that kind of stuff. So it's like just an individual sampler for each hit. You have 4 insert effects, so you can apply an effect directly to a hit. Come into the menu here, you've got all these kind of familiar native instruments, saturations and EQs and all kinds of stuff here. You've got sends. There's 3 kind of parts of the effects section. You've got the inserts, the global effects, and the send effects, which you can access from the macro. But it's quite handy because you can also just select, a specific hit. For instance, let's just say like this layer here. If I just unmute, unsolo the kit. So you could just select this individual kind of layer I put on the snare. It's actually an open tab, but I've just layered it with the snare there, and just send that specifically to the send reverb, that kind of thing, which is quite handy as well. So the pattern area is for actually developing like arrangements with your drums, so you can actually create different sequences and have them come in at different points in an arrangement. The effects section here, as I mentioned before, split into 3 areas. So you've got the insert effects, so the 4 tabs that we saw here in the kit. Okay, we can kind of get into the finer controls of them here. So if I loaded something here, like, I don't know, let's just load onto the kick drum, for example. Let's load a little bit of saturation or something. So when I come back to effects here, I now see that, and I've got my saturation control right in front of me here, which is quite handy. And I can flick through all of the effects, like a few different modes. Okay. So those are the insert effects, and you can have up to 4 insert effects. The global effects are like group effects, okay, so things that are going to affect the entire kit. The send effects here, you have 2, like a reverb and a delay. So let's just try the delay out quickly and see how we can just slightly adapt it. So if I just put I'm going to add a little, so just bring up. Okay, so you can hear the delay there. Now, it's maybe want to adapt that a little so it's a little more practical if you wanted to just bring it in and out as a little kind of edit or something. So I'd come to the send effects area and just select the delay here, send delay, maybe change the timing, something like an 8th dotted value or something like that. And then, you've got all your typical kind of frequency control. Okay. Different types of delay. Put it in a kind of ping pong or whatever. Okay, so then you could just maybe bring down the return, get the delay how you want it, and then bring it on and off as and where you want it. Okay, so that's the kind of basic. It's pretty straightforward, but I find with most effective plugins, things that work for me and instruments, I just have very quick access to all the essential things that I need, and this gives me all of that, and the most important thing, I guess, is the core sounds are of a really high quality. So let's add something in here. The last section here, actually, just to quickly look at, is the macro section. So you can actually look at whatever's assigned, as you can see at the bottom here, to the macros. You can change the behavior of the macro control. So for instance, at the moment, we can see the filter. We can change the actual, when I turn left to right, all the way to the left, the filter's off, and then to the right. But if I wanted to, perhaps I could change the behavior of that to, I could reverse it, for example, so that the macro kind of worked in the opposite direction. So it just, I guess, is just for customizing the actual feel of controls. If you like to use external controls, there's quite a lot of option there, and you can also assign different things to macros. You don't have to stick with what's there, the default macros. Okay, so let's just add something from another new instrument, okay, and just build on this a little. So I'm just going to come into my next channel, my next group here. I'm going to load up the cloud supply. So the cloud supply is a new, it's a part of Komplete 13 now. It's been available for a little while as a separate instrument, but brilliant for melodic elements, harmonic elements, stabs, plucks, that kind of thing. It's quite a contemporary kind of sound to it. So let's just have a quick flick through and have a listen to what we've got here. So I'm just going to find something I can do like a little kind of pluck, harp or something. Okay, so again you see a similar kind of interface. It looks kind of similar here. Let's just come back to our sound for a second and just open that up. So we've got if you've used any of the Play series things before, so that's Cloud Supply is part of the Play series, modular icons, hybrid keys, and neon. I think it's yeah. There's 4 different instruments in the Play series, and they all have this same kind of format where you basically have two oscillators, essentially 2 layers of sound that make up all of the sounds. So I guess one thing that people like about Komplete libraries is the sounds. There's great sounds there just to get started with, to get ideas down immediately, but you can obviously go far beyond that, and you know these are all individual synths. You know, as you see, I come into this sound area here. I've got 2 oscillators, you know, each with their own cutoff, resonance, whatever else, modulation control, envelope control, and I can blend the 2 layers however I might like. So let's just put something basic down, and then we'll start playing around with the sound a little bit. So you just kind of get something. I'm just going to bring down the reverb and the delay a little. So record something in simple like a harpy melody. Just give that a quick quantize, and let's just have a little look at the controls here again. So I'm just going to take just adjust a couple of these notes a little here. There we go. Okay, so this kind of very similar kind of interface here, and the way that things are spread out here as well. You have the you know, the basic kind of macro here. So this is all fairly similar as to what we've looked at in the last instrument in terms of the layout and the control. Effects here, these are all global effects. You have a sequencer built into this, which is quite cool as well. So you could, you know, just with a single note, it's an ARP basically, you know, you could kind of just program a similar kind of pattern internally to what we've just done, and then, you know, adjust your tuning, get something. And you could, you know, get a similar result by actually just kind of arpeggiating as well. So it's quite handy having that internal control just to give you different ways to play with the sound. The macro area in here, I'll just demonstrate how we can reassign the macros a little. So you might not, you know, you might have specific parameters that you want to map to the macros. You might not want to go with the default settings here. So for instance, we've got delay. Let's just kind of let this loop out. Okay, so I'm just going to let's just hold it for a second. Okay, so if I start to bring up the delay here, let's quickly listen to the 2 different layers so we get an idea of what here. So I'm just going to bring down the amp envelope of the kind of gives me a bit more of a practical higher sound there. I'm just going to come to the effects area, and if I start to bring up the delay, you'll notice what it's actually changing. If I select my delay insert here, what's actually changing is the delay timing. Now, I've found that what I would probably rather have control of immediately is the dry wet. You know, I don't necessarily want to just change delay time all the time. I'd rather set a delay I like and bring it in and out. So let's just have a look at how we can actually select the reassign the macros. Okay, so let's just come back to the instrument for a second here. So yes, let's just open it up here. So I'm just going to reopen that. Okay, so if I come back to the macro and for the delay specifically, you can see here it tells me what's assigned, and you can see that at the moment to this delay macro, the timing of the delay is assigned. So I could just turn that off, and then I could come back to the effect, and if you click above any of the macros, so we want to reassign the delay macro to control the wet value. So if I just click on delay here, you see it starts to flash, then I click the wet value, and now when I move my delay, I'm going to be controlling the, oh, that's the reverb, sorry, let's unmap that quickly. So come back to the macro for the reverb, remove that. Okay, come back to effects, make sure I've selected the right effect, replica is the delay, and I'm just going to click above delay here and click the wet value, and now the delay macro is controlling the dry wet value, and I can set a range for that as well. So you know, I could have a little less effects or more effect of that, you know, depending on the kind of sound I wanted to go for. Okay, so let's have a little look at the internal EQ for a second, just so we can kind of see how the sound, we can just tweak the sound a little further. So, you know, within the synth, the sound area itself, you've got a huge amount of control. It's a good sound already. So there's just one thing that kind of caught my ear, was that I want to kind of just EQ a bit at the bottom, bring the top out a little bit. So, okay, so I'm just going to take the first EQ. You've got an EQ for both sounds, both layers. So I'm just going to come to EQA and turn that on. Maybe remove some of the low frequencies here. And maybe just boost the highs a little. Yeah, that's fine. I just want to take away a little bit of that. Okay. Try the other EQ quickly. Okay, just make sure they're both on. Okay, so you've got plenty of kind of internal control there. Okay, so let's just add in another, look at another new instrument quickly. So let's come to another group and let's go for, so let's just make sure that this is actually loaded here. Yes, we're in solo, aren't we? So let's just put on the third group here. Take this off solo. Okay, so let's go for the Lo-Fi Glow. So Lo-Fi Glow is a great library, which is all kind of like real instruments recorded and processed to give them a kind of very kind of saturated lo-fi sound. Okay, so it's just a great kind of library of sounds. Let's just try and find something. And generally what I'll do is just let them play and listen to the sounds interesting. Okay, cool. So here we are. Let's just have a quick look again at the interface. So I keep losing using the interface here. Let's bring it back up. So let's just load it from here. So low flight glow. Okay, and yeah. Okay, so let's have a quick listen to the sound here. So you can hear it's got like a lot of kind of detailed harmonics, all of these sounds, so they immediately just add quite a lot of character. Let's just get something basic in. Take the delay down from my from the down a little. So I'll just get a little kind of top melody or something from this lo-fi glow sound here. So something like that. Okay, so let's get some bass in, and then we've got a full kind of idea there. We can just move on to another instrument. So let's expand that to 4. Okay, so yeah, quite quickly getting something together here. So let's just come back to the browser, another group, and the last thing I'm going to look at in this example, I'm going to try and move on and get a couple of little things so we can look through a few different areas, is a synth called the Super 8. Okay, so this is now part of Komplete 13, and it's basically modeled on kind of 80s analog synthesizers. So its control and layout is quite similar. The oscillator section is quite reminiscent of a SH-101 Roland synth. What's great about it is just the immediate, kind of control of it. I think it's obviously, I'm really in sound design. I love spending hours kind of tweaking and building really, crazy sounds and interesting sounds and really going into it. But sometimes it's nice just to have a synth that just has almost limited kind of control that just forces you to quickly kind of get where you need to go. And that's what I like about this particularly, I think. So let's just have a quick listen through. Just that'll do. Okay, so let's just start with that. So let's open it up so we can have a quick look at it here. Okay, so this is the interface. Okay, you've got 2 oscillators. Let's just get a basic idea down first, and then we'll kind of tweak the sounds a little bit. So I'm just going to come to my keyboard. I'm just going to put like a little ARP on it so I can very quickly make a bass line here. So I'm just going to put it on 8 notes and maybe dotted kind of rhythm. Have a quick listen to how it sounds over the top. So let's just have a listen to the sound, and I'll solo it for a second so we can kind of really focus on it. Just check that it's sitting nicely in the groove of things here. So okay, sounds good. So let's have a quick look, solo the sound so we can just look at the instruments parameters for a second here. So I'm actually, this particular sound just caught my ear. It's like one oscillator. So it's a very simple kind of square wave. You can see here, each oscillator, you can blend together 4 different waveforms. Okay, so that's that's very in line with the SH-101. You have 2 oscillators. So I guess if you think about it, you can blend 8 different waveforms. Okay, you only have kind of 2 layers of pitch to play with, but again, I think that kind of limitation often leads, and it gives you quite an authentic kind of analog-y sound. So let's just go over some of the kind of basic controls here. So if I kind of switch unison mode here, I can increase the voices. Okay, give it a bit more width. I could start to mix the oscillators. Okay, so I'm now getting a mix of the 2 oscillators. I've got quite like the simplicity of the sound as it is, but you've got your filter here. It's got a really nice kind of character to it. Okay, and very easy to set up modulation. Okay, so you have 2 mod sections here. So beneath each of the waveforms in each oscillator, you have this little dial. So what I can do is basically turn this up. You can see as I turn the dial, it kind of changes the shape of the waveform. You can see here, so I can get a slightly different kind of tone at the oscillator stage. Which is really nice. And then if I kind of modulate that slightly, so if I just come to the little arrow below this range here, this is what basically sends to the modulation. So you can see here at the moment it's being sent to mod 1. So if I turn that up, you can now see, you get a nice visual kind of display of how it's modulating the actual wave shape there. And so let's just play around. Okay, so I could bring down the speed of that, so just very slowly as the sound plays back is slightly adapting the tone, which I think is quite a nice quick kind of way to control the sound. And you could change what is actually modulating that, so you could change it from mod 1 to mod 2 to the filter envelope. Okay, so very quickly I find you get great results with this synth. Okay, so I'm just going to bring that back to a real simple, quite actually just like the simplicity of what we had before, but that gives you, I guess, a little glimpse at how you could develop a sound over the course of a track. Okay, so aside from the kind of simple oscillator, blending the oscillators, the filter here has, you can increase the filter character, which is quite nice. Let's just bring it back into context for a minute here and just tweak a few of these parameters. So let's take that off and just bring this back in. Nice and simple and effective. You've got also quite nice on this synth the ability you can change the mod routing very simply. So I could kind of change. I could perhaps select I don't know. Let's say the click here. Please select a destination. So let's click the mix of the 2 oscillators. So now it says oscillator mix here, and I can assign that to various different parts of the synth or external controls like my touch strip or something. So I can now control the kind of mix of that oscillator with my touch strip. So nice for kind of quick development of sound as well. Okay, so I'm going to kind of keep it moving because there's so much to look at here. I'm going to now have a look at, I think, Arcus. So Arcus is another really impressive instrument. So I guess these first 4 that we looked at, so Butch Vig, great, very functional, high quality, interesting drum sounds. You know, they're not your typical kind of drum sounds, because there's been a lot of work has gone into the processing of these, with lots of kind of vintage pedals and all kinds of crazy kind of saturation, and there's a lot of very interesting drum sound there, and the interface is, you know, very user friendly. Then we had the what do we have next? We had the cloud supply, which is kind of great for more kind of contemporary sound, good for melodic stabs, you know, arps, that kind of thing. And then we looked at Lo-Fi Glow, which is it's a multi-sample instrument, lots of real instrument recordings that have been kind of degraded to create really nice, warm, interesting sound. And then lastly, the Super 8, okay, which is the kind of 80s analog synth emulator. So if you like the sound of kind of like Junos and SH-101s, I think it does a very good job of giving you that. And the simplicity of it, I think, is the other great thing about it, really. Sets it aside from a lot of other synths. Okay, so let's just open up a new idea here. Okay, so I'm just going to discard this, and I'm going to have a look at Arcus, just because the sound of it is so impressive. It's an orchestral instrument, so I guess all the things we looked at there, very functional for any kind of electronic music, you know, all of those. I mean, the Butch Vig drums, there's some very acoustic live sounding drums in there too, so, you know, not just for electronic music. The Arcus is something that I think would be great for anyone who wants to incorporate orchestral type of sound into their music, you know, whether that's just a little flavor, a little touch of that, or you're actually scoring, you know, for film or TV or whatever else. I think it's pretty versatile. But yeah, if you really just want to get some nice orchestral sound, very complex, very detailed, it's incredible. So let's just have a quick look at it. And again, what I really like about this, like a lot of these instruments, is actually the high quality sound, but the simplicity of it. You know, it's really quick to get into and to get results from, which I think everyone will agree is, you know, what we're all kind of aiming for. I mean, I would go back and I would fine tune all of these things. Generally, I would, once I've got ideas like this together, I bounce things out of here and I bring them into my DAW and develop them further. You know, one of the things I really like about using Machine with Komplete stuff is it kind of stops me from getting sidetracked. You know, I just get a few kind of strong sounds together quite quickly. So let's just load up an instance of Arcus here. So yeah, let's just load it up. So it has quite an original kind of control in the interface here. You've got 3 layers of sound. You can control individually. So it might just be one aspect of a sound you really like. So let's just start off with everything's broken down into categories here: motions, pads, sparkles, stutters, subswells, textures. So I'm going to go for something sparkly. So let's just have a quick listen through the sound. An idea of the sort of complexity of these sounds. I mean, really great kind of sound in here. Okay, so yeah, let's just pick something. Okay, so even just a single note here, you can hear how much is kind of going on. You know, play a simple chord or two, and you've got a really an octave higher, it sounds even more interesting. We'll kind of look at the 3 layers. Let me just record something basic in here. So let's just put it as in record mode and put a click track on here. Okay, so let's just get this going. let's just get a simple kind of loop. All right, so just check that quickly here. Got a little weird note in there. Okay, so listening to like two simple chords playing back here, you've immediately got a huge kind of amount of atmosphere. So let's build a few things on top of this, okay, and then we'll look at the individual layers and controls. So I'm just going to create another instance of Arcus here in the next group, and maybe I'll go for, yeah, let's stay in this menu here and try something else. Again, you know, I tend to like to use the kind of audition function so I can really find something that sits nicely tonally. That sounds nice, okay? So let's look that up into the next group. Okay, so let's just get some simple. Okay, do. Okay, we'll get a few layers of sound and then we'll kind of work with the parameters also. Very nice. Okay, so I mean, even before touching anything, you just immediately get like a really strong vibe going here. So whether or not you are, you know, you're interested in scoring or doing stuff like sound for film or TV, or you know, it's perfect for that immediate kind of great kind of atmosphere. But you know, I would use this in my own music, kind of I'd probably build up a few things, then maybe sample, you know, the loop that I created and manipulate it further from there to kind of do something a little more, I guess, process it a bit more. But I think what's really great is just the complexity of the sound that you can get out of this immediately. So let's try another couple of layers just to see how much of a sound we can build up here. So I'm going to go for let's try motions and maybe a guitar or something. Let's just have a quick listen through. Yeah, it's a nice kind of guitar tone here, so let's just let this play around. Yeah, just like a little tempo there. Yeah, so the sounds when you kind of sustain them are so complex. Okay, great. So we'll have a look at the individual layers of sound in a second, but let's just get one more layer to this. And you know, very quickly I've got like a really pre-developed musical idea, you know, that I could obviously build up in stages, play around with. I mean, I'd like to separate the individual layers, bounce them all, and then bring them into a DAW and start to play around with them, you know, in terms of the arrangement. But this just helps me to get the idea together very quickly. So yeah, let's get one more layer of sound here. So we've got three groups. I'm going to load one more. Let's come into a different area here. So let's come into pads maybe and find a nice string or something. Let's just have a quick listen. Simple string kind of sound. So let's just get one like little string line on here. Let's just get something in the high frequency. Simple stuff. that'll do. All right, so now we've got a pretty kind of developed idea. I think I missed out my first string there. Let's just come into my, yeah, let's just take that back quickly. Quickly undo that recording, try one more time. So keep it simple. Okay, there we go, that'll do. All right, so 4 layers of sound. Let's just quickly listen to the 4 layers. So we started with this very kind of simple two chords, then we brought in a kind of melodic layer to that. Let's bring them in one at a time here. You can hear like an isolation there, the mix differently. So much going on. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at the interface. So if we look at, let's just listen to the first sound. So if I solo this for a second, you can hear you've got 3 layers here that you can see. So I can mix them in and out accordingly. So I can just turn down the volume of the top 2 layers. So I'm just kind of isolating, let's make sure I'm on the right one here. Okay, so I'm just isolating different parts of the sound, the harp, the stutter. So, you know, there might just be one bit of character in one of the sounds you like, and being able to actually separate them, I think, is great too, because, you know, I would just record that, you know, put it in a sampler probably and develop it further. But the actual internal control, just allowing you to mix between the layers. You know, if you had the 3 layers separately, you could use them at different stages in an idea, you could use them all together. Each individual layer has, and you can interchange, you know, layers from different sounds. So it's endless really as a kind of tool, like orchestral kind of instrument. You have kind of envelope for the whole thing here, and then you've got, for all 3 layers, then you've got individual envelopes. You've got effects for each individual layer, and you've got, you know, a global effects as well. So, you know, a huge, but I think what's most impressive about this, you have this Lfo Animation thing as well, which is quite cool. So you can take, let's just take the string layer for a second, and if I turn on this Lfo Animation on the effects, you see this movement here. I can increase that range, and it's basically just turning the kind of effects mix up and down at a rate that I can change here. So you can really make these sounds move in a syncopated way if you want as well, you know, to kind of fit with whatever it is you're doing. Okay, so I think that is a very impressive instrument in terms of the sound quality and what you can get out of that. So I think very quickly, maybe I'm going to try and just look at one other area here. So let's have a quick look at some of the new expansion packs. In fact, let's go for one of the other multi-sample instruments, because I think one of the things that's so impressive about these, you know, these complete multi-sample, these libraries, is the quality of the real instrument sound. There's tons of great synths, tons of the ensembles are great for quick work, but I suppose it gives you access to very high quality recorded sound, you know, a lot of these instruments. And one that I thought was pretty impressive, let me just come out of this for a sec and just open something new, was the new electric Sunburst guitar, because guitar is something that, you know, I mean, it's pretty it's a pretty hard thing to program convincingly, you know. But this I found certainly to just communicate an idea straight away. I mean, I would be quite happy with using these guitar sounds because of the control that it gives you. It really allows you to to apply the expression, you know, all the important expression of a guitar. And this kind of upgrade to the electric Sunburst here, I think they've done a really good job. So you've got, you know, pre-programmed rhythms and things, but I think what's most interesting is just getting a simple sound that you can play, and then you've got the different play modes. So you can go from you know, open string, you plucked, to muted, to kind of open string, to a kind of glissando-y sort of thing. So, you know, you could just very quickly put together, let's find some simple chords. Let's just go straight in here because we're coming to the end here. So just get a simple 3-chord idea in there, okay? And then just flick, so that's the that's the kind of open string sound, and then on your keys you can kind of flick at the bottom end of the octaves between different kind of modes of playing and different modes of strumming. So you could kind of flick into, for instance, we'll play the same chords here. Let's flick to something really simple. So play. Okay, so yeah, let's just try as it plays, just doing some kind of strummed. Let's just bring this down. Okay, so simple. Let's put it back on an open string. A bit nicer. And in the next group, do like the same chords but strummed with like a muted sound or something. Yeah, so you can very quickly build up really interesting layers of guitar playing. You know, you could then flick into like a kind of a plucked sound and just add a little kind of melody. So something like that. Okay, and just very quickly you can see how you can start to put something quite convincing together. You've got individual control, you know, of each effects wise, so you could load in you know, different kinds of amounts of reverb on different layers, give yourself a bit more kind of atmosphere. And then you've even got like little kind of strutted sounds. So if you just load, let's just come back to one more instance here. So you've got these kind of little strutted notes. So on top of the kind of basic melody and open chords, we load another instance and just use these little strutted sounds. You've got the kind of string sounds, and so you could just try and fit something into a basic kind of. Just give myself a little tempo. build up very quickly quite convincing layers of guitar. Okay, so I guess we're kind of coming to the end. Those are like a few of the instruments that struck me immediately. I guess, you know, aside from that, there are some brilliant new expansion packs. The new guitar rig is amazing as well. If you're a fan of guitar rig, there are it's been fully revamped. You've got all the kind of old kind of classics. Obviously, guitar rig, brilliant for using as an effects rack. You know, it's not specifically for guitar. Great for saturation, reverb, delay, building up really interesting chains. There's all this internal modulation. You've got kind of filter, like a flexible filter that you can assign, flexible envelope rather, you can assign to any parameter. So yeah, that is another part which I would like to get into, but yeah, given the restraints on time, there's so much to look at. But hopefully a little glimpse anyway at some of the things that caught my ear immediately. So it was Butch Vig drums of the new stuff. It was the Lo-Fi Glow. It was the Cloud Supply and the Super 8 synthesizer. And then we had a quick look at Arcus, which was the orchestral tool, which is just great for really complex, quite beautiful kind of layers of really detailed sound. And then lastly, just a quick look at the new electric Sunburst Deluxe, which has you know, all these different kind of playing styles within there, so you can actually just put something together like you would, you know, with any sort of synth, but with a pretty convincing guitar sound. Even if you're you know, don't really know a lot about guitar, you can get a good result from it. Yeah, so I guess we've got about 5 minutes left, so if there were any questions or anything anyone wanted to ask about the bundle, individual instruments, anything at all, now's the time. If
I do have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not actually a native instrument user, but and I lost the first part. But why use machine instead of DAW or DAW?
Yeah, so just for me, I mean, I could go either way. I just find with using any external device, it just gets me away from perhaps getting too caught up with the production of things at the early stages. You know, it just lets me I'm just using my ears, and I'm just trying to get together a group of strong sounds quickly. Find sometimes when you work in the DAW, you have very, you know, set ways of working, which can often end up, yeah, for me it just helps me with my workflow, but there are, you know, I do then take what I've built, you know, in the way that I was building things today. It's a very similar way that I would usually work, whether it was with my own samples that I was using in Machine or Komplete library stuff, but it just speeds things up for me. I get an idea together very quickly, and I think for me, and I think, you know, the faster I get something down, the better it's going to be. You know, the more I kind of deliberate over things, I kind of come off track a little. I find it just a nice tool for speeding up my workflow and keeping me focused on, you know, what's really important in an idea. But yeah, you can absolutely, all of the things I was doing there, you could open individual instances of Komplete on tracks on your DAW. You know, it's just for me personally, it's a nice kind of creative tool to speed things up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so yeah, anyone else, anything anyone wanted to know about the suite or any of the particular instruments, anything we might not have looked at maybe that you're interested in? Okay, so yeah, there's like literally a few minutes left, so unless anyone's got anything quick to say, I might just quickly just go through a couple of sounds from the expansion packs, just so you get a last little bit of demonstration, I guess, of some of the sound, if that's okay with everyone. So I'm just going to open up very quickly here. I'll just play you some sounds from a couple of my favorite ones that caught my ear. So expansion packs, you know, just great kits really. So if I just come into my browser, come to my groups here, one of the new ones that I thought was very interesting was this Stereotypes had lots of great. So these are kind of complete kits, you know, in terms of sounds, drums, whatever else. But generally, when I kind of listen through these, there'll be one sound that you have here, and then like that, for example. Go in, have a listen to the different sounds within the kit, and I put something together with like one layer. That I would then, like I said, bounce out, bring in somewhere else. One of the other good ones, just lastly before we wrap it up, that caught my ear was this pure drip one. There's some nice drum sounds in here. So straight away, some just great drum hits, really kind of good kind of quality sound. So yeah, hopefully some inspiration for people there in terms of I guess the range of sound. You know, I've really tried to go for, you know, a kind of multi, you know, across whatever kind of music you might be liking to make with the things that I was demonstrating there. So yeah, it's certainly there's some great new additions to an already great suite of sounds and instruments. But yeah, I'm certainly enjoying it, and yeah, hopefully you guys will too.
Doug, that was great, man. Thank you very much.
Great, no problem. I enjoyed it.
Incredibly engaging, and that last little demo at the end was the icing on the cake as well, man. Thank you very much.
I'm glad I squeezed it in there then. Yeah.
Me too. Okay. For sure.
Cool.
Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, have a great afternoon.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
Peace.